Earlier today, I proposed that the federal treasury set aside $420 billion. This $420 billion will be placed in a special fund and will go to the first individual who comes up with a workable plan to solve the banking crisis. If you have such a plan or know of someone who does, you can call the number on the screen below to claim this reward.
That's Will Forte on Saturday Night Live last night, spoofing the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, laughing there. But if you've taken a look at your 401k lately, you're not laughing. You've seen staggering losses in your savings. Investors are rattled as the stock market sinks to new lows. President Obama even offered some investment advice this past week. So how can you keep your money safe during the economic crisis? Our next guests offer their financial expertise. Joining me now from New York is David Bach. He's the author of the new book, Fight for Your Money. And Jennifer Openshaw is the author of The Millionaire Zone. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
As Americans at home listen to the budget director and listen to the politicians debate taxes and spending and budgets, let's start with the threshold question of where are we going? I asked Peter Orszag earlier in the show, where's the bottom? Where's the bottom of this economy? They project in their budget next year that the economy will grow at the rate of 3.2%. Jennifer, to you first, is that at all reasonable?
Well, most people are predicting the bottom to come a little bit later in the year, second or third quarter. And the real issue is, John, that nobody's going to know when the bottom comes because we're not going to know until we look back and we say, hey, it was in the second quarter of 2009. And I think, if you took all the newspapers away and all the drumbeat of bad news, the economy would instantly improve. And what people are looking for is certainty and some good numbers. And I think it's going to be a little bit until we see those.
A little bit, David. Can you define a little bit, or is that the big guess?
A little bit. It's a long bit. Look, here's the reality. We spent for 10 years money we didn't have. The average American used credit cards and home equity to buy everything that's in their house right now. They got 5 iPods, they got 2 plasma screen TVs, they got 2 cars in their driveway, they got stuff in storage, and now we're having to cut back on our spending to finally build some savings and pay down that debt. Well, if it took you 5 to 10 years to get in credit card debt, you can't get out of credit card debt in a year. And so the conversation that's happening across America at the dinner table is, we have to cut back our spending. Well, that makes the recession longer. But you look at what's happening in this country. What's the good news? We are spending less and we are saving more, but that leads to a longer recession. I think this recession goes on for at least a year to a year and a half. I don't think we're even halfway through the job cuts that we're starting to see right now. And the truth is the politicians don't know what to tell you right now.
That's it's a sober assessment, Jennifer. Before you come back in, the president is not only trying to manage all these crises, he's trying to play financial advisor. I want you to listen to President Obama earlier this week telling Americans, it may look bad on Wall Street, but maybe this is the time to buy. Let's listen to the president.
What you're now seeing is profit and earning ratios are starting to get to the point where buying stocks is a potentially good deal if you've got a long-term perspective on it.
You accepting the president's advice, Jennifer?
Well, I think he may well be right. Let me tell you, David Letterman over this last week said, hey, instead of buying a latte, you could buy 1,000 shares of GM. Well, instead of buying 10 lattes, you could buy a share of Walmart. We are probably going to look back, and this will be a low time. Stock prices are as low as 1997, but I think we're still in for some ups and downs as we go through this whole recession. But what we're seeing, John, is people are saying, hey, we've seen millions, so many people lose millions of dollars, whether it's smart people like Steven Spielberg and John Malkovich, and whether they trusted experts like Bernie Madoff. And people are finally saying, where was I when there was a Dow Jones 101 class? It's time for me to learn. And that's why at WeSeed we're saying, hey, let's teach people in a safe virtual place so that you are ready when the market rebounds and you're in a position to ask smarter questions even if you are working with an expert.
And so David, the president's psychological boost to the economy, is that the goal of that statement?
Well, I think, that's probably his chief job right now, actually, is to get the psychology of all of us up. It's to have a positive voice in a very negative time. But I agree with Jennifer, and I think that something that we need to hear the president say is that we need to go back to personal economic responsibility. Everybody's focused on the stimulus plan that President Obama is trying to put forward. Folks, you have to fight for your money. You have to have your own family personal economic stimulus plan. Now, what are people doing in this recession? They're looking for better deals. One of the things I talk about in Fight for Your Money right now is that the average American can save $5,000 this year on their expenses. That's everything. That's insurance at home. That's your cell phone. That's your cable. That's your car bill. Everything right now is renegotiable. We had somebody read the book yesterday and send us an email and say, I saved $1,320 with 3 phone calls from just a couple ideas. The great chance right now with people is, look, I say, you don't have to go to bookstores and buy books. If you want, go into libraries right now and read right now books on personal finance. Fix your own finances, because if you're going to wait for the government to start sending you checks to change your life, you're going to be waiting a long time.
That's a big statement there. An author of a new book telling people to go to the library and not buy the book. As we continue the conversation, I'm going to get up for a minute because I want to walk over here to our wall and show something. Because as we talk about, is this a good time to come in, I want to pull this out. This is the Dow. And this is where we were in 1997 at 6,900. And this is where we are now, closing Friday at 6,600. And you see, of course, in October 2007, we hit the all-time high of 14,000. So for somebody at home who has watched their 401k, and I think we can show on our screen, the average 401k was about $69,200 last year. It is now $50,200. 27.5% is the average loss, Jennifer and David. Help that person sitting there watching this right now, again, who sometimes gets confused when all the politicians start talking about taxes and spending in the economy. What should they be doing on this Sunday morning if they're looking at their paperwork?
First of all, you need to know this. Studies over 60 years show that the S&P gains back 46% in the first year following its bottom, okay? We may not be at the bottom, but the point is prices are very low. Secondly, don't stop contributing to your 401k, especially if you've got a long-term horizon. Thirdly, do take a look at what you have. In fact, I just did this with my husband. Pull out all your investment accounts, take a look at what you have, and reevaluate, because some studies are showing that people who are heading into retirement have too much money in stocks, and so it might be a good time for you to pull back. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to sell what you have, but with the additional new money that you're starting to put into savings, you might put that into a bond fund.
So a lesson from the pain, David?
I think the lesson from the pain is we always go back to time horizon. If you're in your 60s right now and you're a year or two away from retirement and you've lost 50% in your 401k plan, you had too much money in stocks. I've always been an advocate that you have a third in real estate, a third in guaranteed investments, and a third in the stock market, because then you've always got yourself a hedge. For those people who are younger right now, as Jennifer said, I wouldn't worry about this market right now. You're buying it at a 50% discount to where it was 2 years ago. If we see this market stay at these levels for another 10 years, you're buying the market cheap. The market will come back up again. Long term, America always wins. So I think if you bet on America long term, you're betting in the right place.
And let me ask you in closing, we just have a few seconds left. Does it help or hurt? I don't mean the political risk here in Washington. I mean the psychology of what you two do for a living. Each of you, and I'm sorry, I only have about 10, 15 seconds each. When the President of the United States is cheerleading the economy to the point of saying, buy stocks.
Well, it is all about confidence, John, and I think that was part of his point. And it's really saying, hey, you know, we're in control. We've got a plan. It is going to take some time, but he wants people to be buying companies because that obviously is going to help prop up the market.
Reality is we need longer conversations about this topic, and we need to hear more from the president. It's not that the president's Warren Buffett. It's that this country right now is down in the dumps. There was like a 48-hour period where after President Obama was elected, everybody felt euphoric. Well, we need to hear from him more often, quite frankly, because America needs that motivational pump right now. And honestly, they're not getting it from the media, and they're not getting it from listening to Democrats and Republicans go back to fighting like they were fighting right before he was elected.
Well, we'll try to keep the conversation going here on Sunday mornings, and we'll have both of you back. Jennifer, David, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you, and take care. At the top of the